Today we're going to be taking a look at X and Y intercepts. So this is 12-4 within your notes. So if you want to follow along, you can. If you want to sit back and relax and just try and take this all in, that's great too. This first section that we're going to be looking at is just exactly what is an X-intercept and a Y-intercept. Now if you think about a football analogy, remember that an interception is when a pass is caught by the defense, right? Now we're not going to have an offensive line and a defensive line on our graph, but we can keep that in mind as it crosses over a different player on the field. So our X-intercept, it's exactly what it states. I'm going to use slightly different terminology, but it's where a point intersects the x-axis. Okay? A point intersects the x-axis. So intersects is a slightly different word that we're going to use, but for an x-intercept, we're looking at a point that intersects the x-axis. For a y-intercept, it's the same thing, but it intersects the y-axis. And actually, we've already been talking about y-intercepts from our formula of y equals mx plus b, where b is our y-intercept. So we're going to use that in just a second. Okay, so an x-intercept intersects the y-axis or the x-axis. Y-intercept intersects the y-axis. So if we're looking on a graph, just to give you a visual here, and if I had a, let's say this line, say that I had this line coming across the page, okay, we have 2 points of intersections. One right here, okay, and the other one is up here. And now to determine which one's which, remember the horizontal line down here is the x-axis. Okay, and the top one is our y-axis. Okay, so this line is passing through 2 spots on these 2 axes. So this first point up here, this is one that we should be familiar with. This is our b value. So this is our y-intercept. I'm going to abbreviate it as y-int, y-int. This one down here, this point right there that intersects the x-axis, is therefore our x-intercept, so our x-int. Okay, so those are where they are located on the graph. We're going to be looking at sometimes there's only going to be one intersection for special lines with special slopes, and we'll talk about the 2 special cases later. In slope-intercept form, it's easy to find the y-intercept, so all the work is actually done for you already. This b value is going to be the y-intercept. But what happens when it's not given to you that clearly? Okay, to do this, we're looking for 2 points in particular. All across this x-axis, if I pick a point over here and say that that is 1, 0, then I pick this point over here and this is 2, 0. What do these both have in common? They both have zeros as their y values. So every time that you find an x-intercept, we are going to have the x value, which we'll just say is b in this case, comma 0. So this is always going to be our ordered pair, and that's the answer that I'm going to be looking for. For our y-intercept, it's just the opposite, 0, b. Because all along this y-axis, we're going to have points in which the y value is a number and the x value is always going to be 0. So that's why we have this second point. Now we take a look at the process of actually finding our x values for our x-intercept and finding our y-intercepts. So by doing this, what we can do is remember, all along an x-intercept, wherever we cross, we are going to have a number, comma 0, right? So every single y value is going to equal 0. So let y equal 0 to solve for x. Okay? Likewise, for the y value, to find the y value of a y-intercept, we can let x equal 0 as well. So we're actually going to be doing 2 different problems in this case to solve for both the x and the y-intercepts. One little side note I want to stress is this is our 2 special cases. It is possible that a vertical or a horizontal line does not have an x or a y-intercept. They are always going to have one intercept, but there could be an instance where they only have one of them, and these are the 2 cases. The vertical line, which if you graph it, here's our x and y axis, our vertical line only crosses and will only have an x-intercept. Okay? If we're taking a look at a horizontal line though, if we draw our coordinate plane, draw a straight horizontal line across, it only has a y-intercept. So there we don't have both, but we have one. So let's take a look at some examples. For number 1 here, we have a form right here. Which form of an equation is this in? Slope-intercept, point-slope, or standard? Okay, it is in point-slope. So we have a point here of plus 5. That would become a negative 5 within our point. And then we have a minus 2, which is just a positive 2 when we construct our point. And then we have our slope here, which is m. To find the x and the y-intercepts of each equation, what we do is we do the first step. So to find the x value of the x-intercept. So we are trying to solve for the x-int. To solve for the x-int, we plug 0 in for y, so y equals 0. So to do this, we take every single y within this function, or this equation, and we plug in a 0 value. So 0 minus 2 equals negative 2 times x plus 5. And now we are just going to be solving a standard equation that we have. 0 minus 2 is negative 2, so that's gone. We're going to use the distributive property. Negative 2 times x, that's negative 2x. Negative 2 times 5 is minus 10 equals negative 2. Now we have a two-step equation. So we're just going to solve this out by adding 10 to both sides. Add 10, so 10 minus 2, that's 8. Equals negative 2x. Okay, to solve, we divide by 2, divide by 2. So therefore, we're left with an x equals, and this should be a negative 2, an x equals negative 4. So are we done yet? No, because if you think back to our solution, we need it in an ordered pair set. So if we solved for x, you just plug in 4, negative 4, comma, 0. And this right here is our final answer for our x-intercept. Now to solve for our y-intercept, we're going to have to do the same type of process, but we're going to be plugging 0 in for our x value in this case. Go ahead if you want to pause the video right now. I'm going to be erasing this answer right here in just a second, so you can copy that down. So if you want to pause, and we'll resume in about 3 seconds. All right, welcome back. We have our negative 4 comma 0. This is our x-intercept. For our y-intercept in this case, we're going to set x equal to 0. So anytime you see an x, we're going to plug in a 0. So if you look here, y minus 2 equals negative 2 times, what's 0 plus 5? 5, very good. So negative 2 times 5 is nothing but negative 10 equals y minus 2. We solve by adding 2 to both sides. Okay, negative 10 plus 2 is negative 8 equals, and then we cancel out this side, so I'm left with a y equals negative 8. Okay, our final answer needs to be in a point form or an ordered pair. So I have 0 now for the x value, see how they're opposite? Then I have a negative 8. So this right here, these are our two answers. So this is our x int, and this is our y int. So that's what we're looking for in each of these solutions. Okay, I'm going to do one more example, and I'm going to give you time to work on the rest. If you see here, 2x plus 3y equals 12. These are actually fairly simple because when we plug in 0 for each value. So the first step we want to do is plug in y equals 0, right? Okay, so to plug in y equals 0, every time you see a y, we just throw in a 0. And 3 times 0 is 0, so this actually is gone. So I'm left with the 2x equals 12. How do I solve? Divide by 2. Divide by 2. Okay, so I'm left with an x equals 6. So a standard form is one of the easiest forms to solve for because we can automatically look at one or the other of the variables. They cancel out the rest of the problem. So x is equal to 6, so therefore our ordered pair is 6, comma 0. Okay, moving on to our y value, we are going to solve for our y-intercept. So for our y-intercept, we want to solve for x equals 0 in this case. So x is going to be equal to 0. So we have 2 times 0 plus 3y equals 12. Okay, and remember 2 times 0 is 0, so this is gone. And I'm left with 3y equals 12. So I'm going to divide by 3, y is equal to 4. And I'm left with the ordered pair of 0, comma 4. So this right here is going to be our y-intercept. And this up here is our x-intercept. So there we found our two intercepts using y equals 0 and x equals 0. Okay, so right now, if you would like to pause the video, you can try some of the next few problems. So here are the answers for the rest of the problem. So if you want to check your work, go right ahead, check to see if you got the right answer. If not, just go back, review your notes, and figure out where you went wrong or may have made a mistake. Thank you for watching. This has been Mr. Korb. Have a great day, and stay tuned for more videos from section 12. We have one more section to go, which is graphing a line.